Morning, guys. It's been a while. I do have a few updates. And it's not car related, but I wanted to do a video on combustion chambers, and uh, this is specifically a two-stroke, but it can be used for the concepts can be used for cars as well, especially when you're checking the combustion chamber for volume, and that will pretty much affect your compression ratio as well. For a two-stroke specifically, though, we have what's called a squish band, and then you also have the chamber volume. So a little backstory. I picked up this 94 YZ250 from KC, and I rebuilt it all. I had to send it had a shattered piston, and I had to send see if I can swap it now. Okay. So I had to send the jug out, Millennium Technologies, to get it replated, Nicosil, and then Pro X piston. And did a bunch of stuff on the bottom end, replaced all the bearings and seals and everything. But when they sent it back to me, they were like, "Hey, I don't know if you're aware, but it was overbored to 69.5 millimeters, and stock is 68." So I didn't really think nothing of it, but I broke it in, and it's running really good, but I had to jet it a little bit higher than what was called for. It was pulling hard, but the top end seemed to flatten out, and I don't know, it just kept bugging me. There's just something a little bit off with it. So I mean, even after breakdown, you still take the cylinder head off and you check everything out and make sure everything's good. It's too easy with the O-ring heads. You just reuse it, throw it back on there, torque it down. But I tore it all apart. Everything looks good, but that got me thinking about the cylinder head, and I mic'd it out, and it did look like somebody machined this out to the overbore. It's pretty close. It's 69.3 something. But with that, people usually match if you don't. So the stock chamber is 21.5 cc's, right? But if you machine this out to the overbore, you're gonna add volume to that chamber. So at the same time, you pull it out for the overbore, you're gonna want to also add to the chamber. And then find that add that material back in, so you have the same effective compression ratio. And what it looks like is they overboarded out and didn't really do any work to the bowl or anything to either add material back in and then reshape it. And then also, like I brought up with two strokes having a squish band, is they're known from the factory to have too much clearance. So what that equates to is lower compression as well, but at the same time, for a two-stroke, it'll actually, with a bad squish band, if it's not optimized, it'll actually make your engine ping or detonation, which is kind of counterintuitive, because you'd think with lower compression you'd be good on pump gas, but what was found is that people had to use higher octane or race gas or octane booster and stuff like that to try to mitigate the stock YZ straight from the factory, not really liking pump gas. So with that, I mean, they come from the factory with too wide of a squish band, and then also whoever machined this out didn't add anything to the bowl. So I'm kind of curious of what it actually is at. Stock is 21.6. So what we're gonna do is, mainly I want to do this video on showing you guys how to do your checking your combustion ratio or your combustion chambers for volume. And you can get these with any baby medicine from the, over the counter, and it's in milliliters, and 1 milliliter equals 1 cc. So pretty much what we're going to do today, talk about that, and show you how to do combustion chambers. And then next time I'm in town, I'll go to Ace Hardware and grab some solder, and we'll do the squish band clearance, try to figure out what that's at and where it should be. But like I said, these concepts can be used on cars, dirt bikes, anything with a combustible engine. What we have here is a cover that I drilled a hole in. Pretty much you put that on there because if I just start filling this up with water, if that cover isn't on there, the water will still like come up above this plane, this axis, without actually start overflowing. So it won't give you an accurate reading because the water level would actually be above this plane and still not be coming, over the edges yet. So you put this on here, and then we're gonna measure how much water goes into this combustion chamber, and that's going to give us our volume for the combustion chamber. And you'll see like companies that sell like aftermarket heads, you can get them in different sizes, so like 64 cc, 72 cc's, and stuff like that. And on a car application, a 4-stroke, that pretty much the only thing they're really looking at is the lower the volume, the higher the compression. And with the 2-stroke, you kind of have, it's the same thing, but you also have a squish band in there that you have to factor in and consider. And you need to get that right and optimized so the 2-stroke runs right. And I kind of figured it would be okay, but then when I was breaking it in and riding it, I was just like, what, something just isn't just right. I've been jetting this thing for a few days now, and I had like a 185 main jet in it, and it was ripping. It loved it. It loved the extra fuel, but that's mainly just like a band-aid of why it doesn't like the right jet that it should have at this elevation. So that just led me to digging a little deeper, and here we are, and doing a tutorial on all this stuff, and follow along. We'll continue working on it and see where we get, and report back. But let's get some stuff here. All the forums, Facebook pages I keep talking to, they keep telling me, buy an Apex head, buy a fat head racing, head and stuff like that. And it's like $350 for a head. And really, yeah, they're nice. They're billet. They're aluminum, 6061. It's like $350 for a head, but really, this is the same thing. And it's just not optimized, and that's what they do. They give you a billet head with an optimized combustion chamber. And that's what you're paying for. But we can do the same thing at home, and get the same results. Even if we need to, by punching this out with the overboard, we can still take some off the deck and get that chamber volume in spec. So what I'm going to do right now, though, is put some grease around the edge so that plate kind of sticks right here. And then also when I'm filling it, I'll get one last, like, every inch of this chamber filled with water right before the water starts pushing out between the plate that I put on top and the head. So nice thin film, and then that'll be good. It's just a little waterproof grease, Maximum stuff. It's stiff, but it'll work. Alright, so we put this down. Okay. Give it a night. Alright. Get that in here. Alright. So here's the first 5 milliliters. Ten. 15. 20. You can see that it's coming up there. You can see the water at the bottom. Put 20. So let's start slow. 21, 22, 22 and a half. 23. That looks good. You can see that water all up around there. You want it to go just to where it just barely hits all the like the outer edge, and you can see it just barely starting to push out. Right before that point, you want that measurement right there, and it was right on 23. We used 2, 3. So I'm gonna write that down real quick. 23. Straight down here, and then you just pull this off. Handy baby. Cover. And suck this water back out. So 23 cc's. Like I said earlier, stock is 21. And that's honestly what I was expecting, because I couldn't really see anything was done with the chamber at all. I was actually surprised when I mic'd it. It was machined for the overbore. Usually people just send the jug out, they get it overboard and throw the head back on, and forget about the head. So that was good. Someone did that. But you know, the clearance isn't the only. It's, I mean, one of the biggest factors that'll get you hemmed up quickly is not having clearance. But it's not the only factor when considering an overbore. So I was expecting a little bit higher cc's, which is good. So stock is 21.6, and we just put 23 milliliters in the chamber. So now that we know, that's pretty much what we need to get it back to too. So if I open up the manual, I believe for this year the compression ratio is 9 to 10.81, something like that. So in theory, not theory, but with the extra volume in this chamber, when they added the overbore to it, that effectively lowered the compression ratio. On top of that, they come from the factory with not very good squish band. There's a squish band in here, but it's not optimized for a good burn. And what you really want in the squish band is between 1 millimeter and 1.1 millimeters, something like that, for the outer and inner ring. And what that squish band does is it squishes, literally squishes the fuel mixture to the center for that combustion. And when they come from the factory, they're just like, I don't know, like, I could probably take a pretty good wild guess, probably like in, fucking, probably 2 millimeters or something like that. I've heard people say. So I think that's really what we got going on here. Had to do a little bit of digging and thinking, but it's all making sense, and the T's are being crossed now. Finding this. So I think the next step is we'll measure the squish, figure out how wide it is and how much we need to take off to get this in spec, and then go from there. You see what we found the other day. I was doing it. The squish band is 11.67 millimeters wide. The bore is 69.5. The head is 69.39. This is the spec of squish that you want, 1 millimeter to 1.1 millimeters. So I'm gonna get some solder, and try to get that, figure out where we're at on that, and then we'll also measure the inner and outer squish on the band to see where we're at within this, because it might be within the spec on the outer band, but not within on the inner. I was trying to figure out if I could use this tool to do the squish angle, but I don't think this is going to work for me. And then we just did the combustion chamber volume. I'm sitting at like 22.7, 23 cc's. The chamber's at, so it's coming together. Talk to a machine shop once I get all these specs. We'll do the other video for the solder and talk to a machine shop and see what our options are. What I would like to do is fill this all in, because the last owner had a engine blow up. Pretty much the piston shattered in it and just dinged this whole head up. So, and really at this point it's still fine for a 2-stroke. It's not going to hurt much, but it would be better, better to do it, have this all filled in, get it redone on the lathe, and then get all the specs that I find back within, and that we might have to take some off the deck. We might have to take out a little bit more to get it right at 69.5. We'll see. But I hope you guys learned a little bit on this. It's real easy stuff. Like I said, baby medicine, milliliters, 1 milliliter equals 1 cc, so that really, no converting. You get like a glass plate or something, throw some grease down, drill a hole in it. That's why I got plexiglass, because you can drill a hole in that. You just throw it on there and measure what your chamber is. I did have to do some digging to see what a stock head chamber volume was, because that's not just really ready available. No one's really worried about it unless they have to overbore their cylinder. But they don't think about that. They just want their bike back up and running, and they lose a little bit of compression. But that's also the downfall, is you get your bike back up and running and it's just a little bit off, not running right. So, and then also I'd like to throw this back on and get a compression tester and just see what it's currently, the PSI, the cranking PSI is at. And that'll give us a good indication. If it's also low, we can also assume that we're still barking up the right tree. If it's high, maybe we'll just do the squish clearance, figure out where it's at, and try to get that within spec. If I get cranking PSI of like 230 or something like that, I'll probably be happy with it. The heck with it. But if we have more evidence of lower PSI, and we measure the chamber out, and that's more, and then we have lower cranking PSI, it's just all leading evidence of lower compression, and that's probably why the top end is just a little flat. Apologies for my voice. I had a tonsillectomy on Monday, and I wanted to do the video, keep it short and to the point. Because if I get talking too much, my vocal cords just ain't there yet. But I think that wraps it up for right now. Good update. Sorry I haven't done any videos in a while. The car's coming along great. We're starting on the turbo kit soon. I actually have to, I'm gonna fix these threads, get maybe a helicoil in there, and or just get another bolt that's close to it and rethread these so we can get our mock-up block in the car. I got a buddy giving me a T56 for mock-up to borrow. We're gonna get that in the car and get this turbo kit done. I think last trip up there was good. I love stopping in to see Ken at his shop, and I got some more parts in. I got 2 blow-off valves, 2 wastegates, and the last thing for that, I think we just need, you know, some do some shopping for some V-band clamps and the 105 throttle body. It's been back ordered forever. Holly, I just called Holly. I was like, hey, you just hit me up when it comes in. And the other things that have been keeping busy is that table back there. We started doing some metalwork stuff. You can check my Facebook at Rich Art Metalworks. Been doing a lot of just like signs and stuff, and you know, address things, monograms for people. Designing this little footrest for, you know, Jeep, when you have your doors off on your Jeep and stuff like that. But I mean, if you're watching this video, you know I'm into car stuff and, you know, performance stuff. So I'm definitely gonna have like a design line for motorsport parts. It'll still be Rich Art Metalworks, but I mean, you just don't need. It's just not gonna be, you know, Rich Art Performance, you know, stuff like that. It's just gonna be Rich Art Metalworks. And once I design the stuff, you pretty much just, if you like it, you can get it, you know. And I hope to have a bunch of stuff available for people. That's pretty much what I've been working on. This stuff takes up a lot of time to get dialed in and right. I just did some 1/4-inch plate last night that I was really proud of. Check that out. That's 1/4-inch plate right there. Very, very small amount of dross. This would have been even nicer, but I forgot to hook up the ground lead, and that was the initial cut, and it actually cut like 1 inch of it, and it was like, hey, what the heck? And then I realized I didn't put the ground on, but this whole thing would have came out even better. But once I did, it came out great. I love it. This stuff's really cool. But I've been designing stuff and making signs for people, and that's what we've been up to. Sorry I haven't posted in a while, but you know, got to get stuff squared away and keep busy, and I'll keep the videos coming. Later, guys.